Hi, I'm Ashley Curallo, sharing my heart, music, and home, and today I'm going to show how I used a thrifted piece of clothing to make an envelope style pillow. First, I'm going to begin by taking this lovely jumper, beautiful fabric, not so crazy about the actual dress. So I'm going to begin by cutting the seams of the dress on both sides. Then I'm going to flip open the dress and cut the seams that would have been the shoulder seams. Once this is done, now I'm going to take my tape measure and measure the sides of the pillow. And I like to be fairly snug in my measurements. And then what I do is I add 1/2 inch to each measurement. Now I'm going to begin by cutting out my fabric. So I'm going to create a straight line. Now I'm going to create a straight line at the bottom. I'm going to go up the side, and you'll notice as I measure, what I like to do is I might like to measure several times across, and what this does is it gives me several little points that then I can draw a straight line. If this doesn't make sense, just keep watching me and hopefully you'll understand what I mean. So here I'm measuring up several times from the bottom so that I can then draw several little marks, and I can use my yardstick here and draw a straight line. So this will become the front piece of the envelope style pillow. So this is just one large portion. Just going to lay it on top, make sure it looks good. Now I'm going to begin measuring for the envelope portion of the pillow. I tucked my hand in there to see how far that large print of blue gingham went, and so I measured that width of it, and now I'm going to measure the length of that section of the envelope pillow. Now I'm going to measure that other larger portion of the envelope side. So I measured the width and the length, and then I'm going to add 1/2 inch to each dimension. Now to begin cutting out the larger of the portions, I'm going to use this scrap of fabric here. Once again, you have to create straight lines when you're using a repurposed piece of fabric. So I'm going to measure up several times from the bottom to create a straight line. So here I'm drawing the side portion of the pillow, and I will measure several times across. I will measure the width and just draw several little pencil marks, and that will allow me to then take my yardstick and draw a straight line. And so here I'm measuring across several times, just making sure my dimensions are consistent, and then I will use that to create a straight line. So then I will end up with a piece of fabric that is hopefully square and the right dimension. So this will be the larger piece of the envelope side. And then now what I'm going to do is take the other side of the jumper and cut down the center. I didn't really care for that seam in the center dress, so I just had to make do with what I had. It ended up being a little bit narrower than I wanted, but I made it work. So here I'm measuring several times across to then create several points that I can draw a straight line. Then what I did is I folded over the one long side of each of the envelope portions, and I sewed a quick seam. That way I don't have any raw edges, and you'll see why I did that in just a minute. So here I laid down the larger portion of the pillow, and what I did is the nice sides will be facing together. So you'll see the rough side, and I laid down the larger portion of the envelope side down first, and then I laid down the smaller portion on top of that. So I lined everything up, and then I pinned it all in place. Now I'm going to show you how to trim up the corners a little bit so that it fits snugly around the pillow. What I did is I measured 6 inches over from one side and then on the other side of the corner, I measured 1/2 inch down. Basically what I'm doing is creating a very small triangle that then I'm going to trim off. And I'm actually going to repeat that process on the other side of this corner as well. Just keep watching and hopefully this will make sense. Basically what I'm doing is just trimming up the corners a little bit so that it fits very snugly around the corners of the pillow and it's not baggy. If you don't care about being precise about this, you could just simply trim a little bit of the corners, just trim a little triangle off, and I'm sure it would be fine. So I'm going to repeat this process around every corner. And I have about done the hardest part of creating an envelope style pillow. This pillow is heavier on the cutting and pinning and planning portion of it, but then once you start sewing, it comes together very quickly. So all I'm going to do is sew a very simple seam all the way around the entire pillow. I do not have to leave any openings because the envelope portion in the center is how I open this case to put the pillow inside. Here I'm about done. What I like to do when I finish a project, I like to go ahead and at the very tail end of it, I like to hit the reverse button, just kind of create a little stronger seam. And then I'm actually going to trim off my extra thread. And now I'm ready to start flipping the pillow inside out. And what I like to do is just take my hand and really poke the corners out. I apologize for the wonky camera angle. And I am about ready to stuff my pillow in this new case. I like how this case fits. It wasn't too snug and it wasn't too loose. I don't like my pillow covers to be baggy. And so now I have a lovely pillow cover that I was able to make very cheaply out of a thrifted piece of fabric, and it will go very nicely in my home. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this little project.